So I just thought I'll do a little progress video sort of thing, part of my workbook for uni, just because I may not have the time to write all of those down, but really it's just progress of this woven rug. So this is actually a rug, but I'm going to turn it into a skirt, a dress, and a accessory, pretty much a belt-ish accessory. But that's just to show how I did this, so that at least it's recorded, something to look back to, and also maybe it could be a good part of my uni paper project, because this paper is all about research and practice and how, the design process of our collection. But this is a process specifically for this one, which I'll just show a little bit. So this will be, don't know if it's gonna be shown, something like that. Yeah. It is shorter than what I expected, or what I hope. My math did me just, well, as expected. My math is so wrong. I was supposed to have 60 by 50, but it became, it's supposed to be 50 in this one, and it's 40 instead, and this became longer, which is compensates for it. It is now about 50, 65, which is fine because it's still long enough to kind of cover as a skirt. It is definitely sturdy and heavier than your normal skirt, but it is interesting and different, and why not wear a rug, right? Because make it interesting. Yeah. So I kind of, with all the samples that I did, I knew it's going to, I don't have my samples anymore because they're all in this one now. I do have photos. With all the samples that I did, I knew it will shrink, but it's still kind of hard to manage how much it'll shrink. What I did realize, though, that the tension that I put onto the warps, the warp, which is up and down, it will shrink depending on how much tension. So the more tension I give it, the more it'll shrink back to itself. So that was one of the mistakes I did with this first one, but I'm still gonna use it. Have that little curly bits, but that's a little curly, because tension isn't the same for both warps. So I'm going to show the step-by-step, or like how I did it, but yeah, there is difference. There's two layers of warps, and then well, it's just the stripes of every color that I can find. So right now it's about preparing for my second. I've actually kind of started my second. I've started my second weaving, which is quite exciting. I thought I'll be at my first still. But I'm preparing my strips for now. I'll show you. So here, this is my ball of strips, and I'm turning that into a longer strip so that it can go there continuously. But this is the job for the morning for now. I still have all of this to strip into this, and I'm afraid that's not enough for everything that I'm going to do. But good news is I don't have to buy exactly this, because this is what, $14 to restrip and become this to become this. Ideally this would have been a upcycled garment, but my mistake was not looking for stuff to upcycle. It is actually harder and will require mountains of clothes to get into pretty much just one. And I would do it if I had the time. But unfortunately, right now, I only have 1 week till my personal deadline because there is a photo shoot that's going to happen. And I just had to kind of like put it on my, hey, this was supposed to be done with old clothes, but instead I bought clothes to finish this project. I bought fabrics to finish this project. The one thing is that this is all zero waste. I did have tiny waste, just for honesty, tiny waste, and it is not even from this set of final weaving. Like at the very end of rolls, there's like this awkward length or awkward something. So it's something that is like too thin to not be able to put in there. Yeah, so it's going to be too thin once it stretches, and it's going to change a little bit of the look. So there is a little bit of the waste, and my waste is a mountain of old other cuts, so can't really justify how tiny my waist is. But there is a little bit of that tiny waste, so it's not all zero waste, how I wish that was a plan, but hey, I've learned my lesson, and I think this paper is about learning those lessons, right? But otherwise they are more so every width of the fabric. From selvage to selvage, I've cut them. And then put them into a ball of strips, and then this strip will get into, yeah. So this one is the only one that is a ball of strips, or a longer strip. This is the warp thread. And then my weft are pieces of fabrics. So these are, I made a mistake with this. This was cut on the warp when it was supposed to be cut on the weft. So I made that mistake, and it still works. It's still fine, but it doesn't stretch as much. And with this, I'll show a little bit of process, but ideally you stretch it as much so that it won't go anywhere else. But these are quite new fabrics, so yeah, so it's kind of like this. From this thickness, stretch it out so that it is their final, it still stretches, but it's the most, like it's already stretched the fabric out. So that's its final stretch. So that's what I do. So from this, I kind of measure it by hand, sort of thing, a little bit of stretch into that, and then I cut it into a shorter strip so that it can go to the weft. All right, might as well show, because I'm already talking about. So this is the entire thing. That's how big it is, and that shows how much stretch it is. That's the final. So that is a final. It's stretched mostly on here. The warp stretch mostly, because this is just single strips. Now the method that I've been watching is that this, from here it goes around as a long strip, and then but this is softer than that method, because that method is, it will be thicker and it won't drape as much. Whereas this will drape a little bit more and it will be lighter onto the body. But yeah, this, so I don't know if you, there's a first layer. So this is just strips and strips of fabric. This is the layer, the first warp layer. And it starts with this first nail down to its corresponding nail. And then it skips a nail. And then it follows through. It's skipping one nail all the way through. And it's the same for this weft. It starts from under here. There's one in there, and then it skips one at a time. Now this side is one nail less than that one, and that was a mistake. That wasn't supposed to happen. It's supposed to have the same one. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ignore one. And I don't know why I missed that or how I missed that, because it's supposed to have the same length, but oh well. And so far it really doesn't. So far I've noticed nothing in this one. All right. So it's going to be hard to show how I'm going to do the next bit, but yeah. So what I did, like I said, this weft was supposed to go from here, just the same way as this one, the same way as this first layer. It was supposed to go all the way around and back and missing one nail, like skipping one nail. But because the final of that method is going to be thicker than the one that we've done, it will be thicker than this one, and it won't have this sort of like drapiness into it. We went for this sort of style, and then with this one I get to control the colors more. So I put in one color. Sometimes I put in two because there's going to be another color in there. But it'll be broken up by the wefts anyway, the warps anyway. So yeah, so the next step after this is taking this ball of yarn and then doing the same action as this first one. Taking the same action as that one. And then doing the nails that was missed. So it will be like that. And that is how it gets locked. That second layer, that layer of weft will get locked into place. And then once that's all finished, once that all second nail has been, I guess, threaded with strips, that will then start the weaving process. The actual like weaving up and down through and everything, which I'll show once I'm on that. But for now, we want to get this strips into this, so that we have something to go around our second layer, because this one is not enough. This is too tiny for that. So that's the plan. Hopefully I get another layer. Oh, and another thing for this second one, when I did this warping before, I was stretching it so much. With this one, I was just laying it on top, so it's really light. I can really move around. Whereas before it was really taut. This one isn't so much. Still have to cut this much. These are the joints where the strips are together. It's not super obvious, except for that one, but that one is because it's on the edge, which I shouldn't have done. This will then, I've pushed them all at the back, like these ones. So this is the back. That's how I know it's the back. But I will be cutting them because they're just extremely bare. So yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy with how light colored it is. It's not too dark, but the darks are kind of like just giving it depth. And then the light colors, like the yellows and the pinks, it's just really brightening it up. What I'm going to do, this one has more of this. So there's going to be more of this dark red, purple color, which will be more evident once there is the second layer of weft. So that's how I'm going to put it more. But my next one will be more red. So I get to control my colors. I still have the same colors, but I get to control which one is more obvious. Like, see that yellow is too obvious. I can lessen the yellow, but it'll still show yellow. Or completely remove the yellow, so it's all just these warm colors. And then a little bit of the blue. I kind of like the blue, actually, because it's just there. So there is no structure to the color. It's just so that it's colorful. But as I move on, maybe there is going to be some sort of structure. I don't know. Maybe not. I kind of like that this is random. But yeah. So yeah. Learned a lot of lesson. Not just from sampling, but also from the final fabric or for the final one. So I'm going to use this as just part of the places that I can hide-ish. How crinkly it is, but I stretch it as much as I can so that it will kind of like stretch itself, but it just wants to go back to its normal state. So now I know how stretch works. But yeah, I never work with stretch fabrics, but now I'm working with a lot of them. Isn't that funny? I'll go back once, and then I'll show you the next step once that's ready. So this is now the third layer of the weaving that I'm doing right now. So this is now creating that second, every second nail, and sort of like creating that lock, locking this into place without having to go through one thing at a time. So this is kind of like a faster method, and the only thing that will go through one thing at a time is the weft side piece. Now with this one, I did this where it goes through every strand that is in here. So it goes through that one side. This is the first layer. This is the second layer of weft, of warp. But I kind of did this on this one because I want to lock the edges into place. Now with the edges on the original, or not the original, of the first one, it is crocheted together. And I still can do that with this one, I think, but this at least locks it into place for now, so even if I remove this, it'll still be locked. I don't have to do this. I'm gonna try that one because, this one's a little bulky, a little bit, but I think I can still do this for this one, even if it's already there. And it's just really just to lock it in place, but I did that for this one as well. So one of the problems I've been having with the loom that I kind of like just DIY'd is that this bit and this bit is turning. But this is for some reason, yeah. So it's turning. It's an easy DIY. It's just something, it's just a wood we bought at Bunnings, and it's, yeah. I just it's been giving me trouble because the more there is weft in there, the more it stretches it to each other, and then this one gets turned. And so I kind of like, just kind of, this isn't finished, but I kind of added another one in there, so there's 3 now, just to kind of at least hold it in place a little bit more. I don't want to do anything too much because it might, yeah, see, there is already the line, the cracked line, and it's a lot of hard work putting these nails on, and I don't want to spend more time doing nails hammering in nails when I can be weaving. So hopefully, at least until I finish this small one, there is a big one coming up, at least hopefully, yeah, this gets done first. So yeah, this is the first layer, I mean the third layer now, and then I am going to do my final layer, which is now what's going to happen is I'm going to weave it through using the first one. So because this is at the front, this is the third layer, or the second warp layer, because that is at the front, I am now needing to catch the first layer, that one, through there, to lock it all in place, and then that creates the pattern, and that creates the whole new fabric. So this is now the 4th layer. This is actually a different one now from my previous example. This is how we do the 4th layer. So I put the weaving through the first layer to kind of lock these pieces in place. So without weaving, this is the first layer, this is the second layer, third layer, and now I go through the first layer, every first layer of each row, so as to create this effect. Just like that, and I have a rug. And I'll just have to go through, these are the strings ready to be attached through every layer. And yeah, this is how it's done.